Hi, I'm Dr. Keith Johnson, and I'm reading from my book. I know where I've been, I'm just not sure where I'm going. This is an article I wrote called, "Did You Catch That Last Flight?" Sometimes when things don't seem to work the way you think they should, you have to take things into your own hands. And that's just what I'm going to do with air travel. Being at an airport and fighting the crowds and the administration and the security and all the rest, I've decided I'm going to buy my own airlines. First ruckus happened that made me decide that. As soon as I arrived at the airport, people were running around in groups, seemingly in near panic, while security was running all over the place. I decided to stop a security guard and asked him, "Is there a problem here?" He said, "You bet there's a problem, buddy. A UFO just landed in the middle of our airport and we've lost their luggage." It stands to reason that every time you enter an airline hallway, you're already taking your life into your own hands because a big sign at the start says terminal. Fortunately, I had time to spare because I was going to take one of those time to get away even though I didn't plan on a trip, you know what I mean? I thought that I would shop for the best deal and the best destination. So first I took a walk over to the Italian Airlines. Those are the first planes I ever saw with hair underneath their wings. Today, gone tomorrow. I think that's because of the wind. Then I walked over to the Jewish Airlines where I saw a small plane and two Jewish stewardesses got on. I said to the ticket taker, "You really need two stewardesses for a small plane?" "Oh yes." He immediately answered. "One gives out the food while the other says, 'Come on, eat, eat, eat.'" I then walked over to what they call the Christian Airlines. Having never heard the name before, I asked, "What makes this a Christian airline?" Ticket man says, "On these planes, seats are so narrow, you have to turn the other cheek." I walked over to Vatican Airlines where they explained to me the emergency instructions are in Latin so the Catholics can save themselves first. Air India gives you a bowl so that second class and written instructions on how to get to first class and to bed. Chinese Airlines gives you lunch to go and your clothes will be cleaned. But by the way, they'll be ready on Tuesday. Nairobi Airlines went out of business. They used to feed the people in second class to the people in first class. But they mistakenly boiled some missionaries and sued the airlines for terrible food poisoning. The missionaries were friars. Gypsy Airlines actually lets you fly for free, but when you land, your wallet and your purse is missing. I went to the Peru Airlines, where you buy a ticket to find strange, forgotten airports to explore strange, forgotten luggage. And it's an archaeological study that if luggage was also lost, it reminded me of the time a man put a gun in the pilot's head and demanded to be taken where his luggage was going. "How often do these planes crash?" I said. "Oh, only once." I have learned to try to keep my cool when it comes to lost luggage. Last time I went to complain about my lost luggage, the man to whom I was talking to was wearing my clothes. I almost lost it. He called security, and I calmed down. They returned one of my shoes, but the man complained he'd have to walk home on the curb. Next time I took a plane, I said to the man at the counter, "Could you send my small bag to Mexico, my middle bag to Italy, and my big bag to New York?" He looked at me and said, "Sir, we don't do that." And I said, "Oh, yes, you do. You did last time." I heard that one of the newest planes was packed with new weather directing equipment, monitoring all areas of weather and flying in the darkest of nights and the greatest of storms. Then it was finally a clear day, and without the instruments, the plane couldn't know how to get off the ground. I noticed that one airline had an all-woman mechanic crew working in the front of the airplane. The ticket man proudly stated, "Our company is made up of 90% women doing all of the airline's jobs." I hesitated for a minute and said, "Do you still call the front of the plane cockpit?" The he-man stood up and said, "You know, before this I was afraid to fly. Now I'm really afraid." Ticket man spoke up, "There's nothing to be afraid of. These planes are the safest transportation you can take." He stepped from behind the counter, almost as if he was making a speech. "Cars are not safe. Most people are killed on the highways. than in all the wars combined. Trains are not safe. Just last week there was a horrible train wreck where 400 people were killed. Wow, I said, what happened? A plane fell on them. Seems to me that if the Lord wanted people to fly, he would have made it simpler to get to the airport. There would be smaller lines at the ticket counter and less inquisitions at the security gate. There's an unconfirmed story that Walt Disney was in an airport when he saw the lines at the ticket counter and said, "Hey, that gives me an idea for entrances to my theme park." Lord must have loved airplane fares because he made so many of them. One time when I was flying, we had to make many stops. Every time the plane landed, a little white truck came up to the plane and fueled it. After the 10th stop, the man next to me said, "Wow, we're making pretty good time, aren't we?" I said, "Not as good as that little white truck. It's always here waiting for us." I'll never forget the time I was flying in the Dominican Republic and the pilot said, "Ladies and gentlemen, we are flying very low so that you can see a good view of the nearby mountains. Pull her up, Joe, pull her up!" One time I think the pilot didn't know the passenger intercom was on because I heard him say, "First, I'm going to the bathroom. Then, I'm going to get that new stewardess." Suddenly the new stewardess was running up the aisle towards the cockpit, and I said, "Relax, he hasn't gotten to the bathroom yet." One time the plane was in great turbulence, but I didn't mind until I saw the pilot come from out of his door with a parachute on his back and said, "Listen, don't worry about a thing, I'm going to go for help." One time the pilot told me he'd lost number 1 engine and we would be half an hour late. Then he announced we'd lost number 2 engine and we'd be 2 hours late. Then he said we lost engine 3 and we were going to be 5 hours late. Good thing we didn't lose the last one. We'd be up in the air all day. I believe the big problem with airlines is the cost. So expensive to fly airlines, you can't pay the bills. So I've decided to create what we call Keith Airlines. I believe I could run a very efficient and safe airline. First thing I'd have to do is buy a plane, of course. Now agreed, it's going to take a little time, so don't plan on flying with me too soon. But be assured that I'm putting aside $3 every month until I can finally buy a big plane. You may send in down payments for flights in a brown unmarked paper bag with my private address. Don't say where it went or who got it. Keith Airlines will be no frills, very basic service, making flying affordable again. In order to do this, no meals served on board. Instead, we stay at a Denny's parking lot in the middle of the flight and have separate checks. Seat belts will be made of Velcro, obtained from the dollar store, and if you buy your own and keep the receipt, I'll take $1 off your fare. Before each flight, I'll have the pilot come out and give a 5-minute dissertation on his background and qualifications. You don't like him? Vote for one yourself, and you can let him fly. You'll be responsible for locating and stealing back your own luggage, making luggage handlers obsolescence and pay raises unnecessary. Each passenger will be asked to chip in for gas. Unfortunately, I have to make each passenger walk a long way to get from the booth to the terminal because I need time to get the luggage on the plane, if you know what I mean. When I pull the steps away, the plane doesn't fall over, I hope, like it did last time. I told the last group the plane was just kissing the ground and its wing before it left the ground. It was such a good comment, I almost believed it. No danger in false advertisement. I'm offering chances instead of tickets. Being a small airline, no one will be allowed on the plane without exact change. No movies, but I will have pictures you can pass around. Anyway, you won't need a movie. With our pilots, you will spend every 10 seconds watching your life pass before your eyes. For the sake of the passengers, I will insist that the little red light on the plane be kept off because every time they turn that red light on, the plane starts to bump all over the place. The plane just becomes very bumpy. To meet with safety airline requirements, I will include a chapel on the plane so that you can pray while you're headed down. I want to thank you for flying Keith Airlines in advance. I'm looking forward to your money. Your patronage is appreciated.
Guess it's on.
Yeah.